And so looking at I review as a teacher, and our teachers review the work, we see what's there, and then we identify places that the parents can use support, or maybe there's areas where we're like, oh, you can leverage this to really get this kid excited about reading. I noticed just a real passion here about signing up for this science class in the future. So we're using our kind of experienced educator viewpoint to coach and guide the families. If they have specific questions, for sure, we often start there.
If AI feels overwhelming, you're not behind. You're just busy running a business. New tools pop up every week, and then no one has time to figure out what actually works. At LionEdge AI, we take AI off your plate so you can focus on running your business. We review your setup, choose the right tools, and run AI systems across sales, customer support, and operations. No noise, no learning curve. LionEdge AI, your unfair advantage in the AI era.
Ever thought about schooling from a sailboat? Meet Camilla Barnes, the educational trailblazer behind Global Village School, where classrooms are as flexible as the families they serve. From teaching marine biology on the high seas to crafting personalized learning paths, Camilla's approach is anything but ordinary. Curious how a virtual school can redefine education and family dynamics? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another very interesting episode of Scaling in the AI Area podcast. Today, we have a very special guest because I bet that a lot of our audience don't even know, at least I didn't know, about the school that she works for and manage education there. With that, I would like to introduce Camilla Barnes. Please introduce yourself and the company and the school.
Well, yeah, it's great to be here. What a just privilege to get to talk about Global Village School with you. I work for the Global Village School. I'm the director of education there, and I'm also a teacher. And we are a K through 12 distance learning program. I've heard a lot of people describe it as it's a combination of a private school and a Hope School experience. We partner with families to really provide individualized learning to kids all over the world. And we've been around for about 26 years. I've been the director of education for about 5.
So, when we say school, and it's not the typical school that people might think of or they know, right? So let's start with that. It's a digital virtual school, right? Let's
Yep.
begin with that.
Yep.
And tell us about how does it really work. So, you know what? Maybe for our audience to understand, maybe if you can shed some light about your clients. Who are the clients that choose the school? Why did they choose you guys? Why don't they just go to, the school in their neighborhood? What's the deal here?
Excellent. We have a variety of reasons. We're not all like kids are sitting down in front of the computer instead of going to a classroom. We provide curriculum. We have really experienced teachers who provide guidance. And we also really bring in families, or also sometimes families will utilize grandparents, community members, sometimes tutors, just different. So it allows students to be part of where they live, then it also, but we provide rigorous curriculum, and we really work on providing entry points for that student. So that's where the personalization comes in versus like, okay, here's a curriculum, log on, answer, get graded on it. It's really set up to be successful for every student in every place that they're living. You mentioned in the introduction, I had a family once they were enrolled in a regular private school, and they were sailing around the world for a year. And so they joined Global Village just for a year. They had 2 students, 2 children. And so I worked with the mom, was what we call the home teacher. And I worked with her. They would call in from the sailboat. And I worked with her about what they were doing. And they really took our curriculum is we call it like a roadmap. So you can take like the really specific roadmap, or you can go off road. And so we allow both. And so for that family, we made sure that their science included things that they were learning about, marine biology. When they were in Panama, they learned about the history of Panama. They learned about the science of the lock system, that kind of thing. We have students who live in the city, but the school just isn't the right fit for them for a variety of reasons. Sometimes that's mental health, sometimes that's physical health, sometimes that's identity things, and so their parents have chosen to homeschool them, but they wanted guidance. They wanted more guidance and support than just doing that on their own, and so they get to partner with a really experienced teacher that helps them in the way that they need it. So our families have a lot of really different needs. Some of the parents are college professors and have a huge knowledge base, but still don't know how to bring that to their 10th grader or their fifth grader. And so we are providing that bridge for them. We offer a curriculum K through 12. Um, and there's a we think social emotional is part of the learning, so we really want kids to be safe, comfortable, excited, find things that in their own world that are interesting and use that as a way to learn. So to learn to read and write and do math and communicate about what is important to them in the world. We talk a lot about just finding passions or at least interests as ways into curriculum.
This is fascinating. So let me see if I got it right. So, um, if I'm a family that choose to go to your school, whether, as you mentioned, there's a variety of reason. It could be personal or personality reason, and it could be a physical, like like this family that travel all over the world in their sailboat, right? And they need a solution for the kids to keep to catch up, right, and to keep with school. So that's why they would, choose your school. And by the way, what is the highest class that you teach?
We go all the way through 12th grade. Yep.
12th grade,
Yeah,
all the
and
way to
we're
12.
accredited actually through WASC. So, yeah, so kids, if they graduate from us, we receive a regular private school, high school diploma. Yeah.
Right. So your diploma is certified and it's accredited, right? So
Yeah.
it's like any other school, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Amazing. No, no, seriously. I wish I had this opportunity when I was a kid. But but that leads me to another question. So let's set aside kids who don't go to regular school because of some personalities issues, right? That's. But let's talk about, for example, those kids that like they traveling or they live far from school, and they don't what they do miss, and unfortunately, you can't really provide that experience to as someone who goes to regular school get is the interpersonal skills with other kids, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, they are at home and then they meet you. I don't know. I would like you to tell us how it goes, like every day, every week. And my question is actually, other than I want to hear how those kids learn, like what's the program look like. But another question would be, do you also look into bridging the gap of this interpersonal communication? And especially today with the young generation, as we know, we already have a problem with screen, like even
Yeah.
regular kids, right? So in your case, now they don't get to see other kids like the same at the same, yeah, or yeah. So, but I think there is something that you guys do to help them with that as well.
And we're very aware of that, and so we work pretty hard to try to bridge that gap. One of the things is we really just try to support and acknowledge the connections that the kids do have in their communities. So sometimes that might be like I have one kid who wants to go be a triathlete at an NCAA school and spends a lot of time training, and so we instead of his training being an extra thing, it's part of his PE. I ask him about it. It's really valued, and those connections aren't separate from school. They're brought into school. So that would be something. Certainly. So any community connections they have, we really encourage. Starting at the junior high level, we do a seminar where we bring. It's a live class where we bring kids in. It's optional at the junior high level, and so just create circumstances that they can connect to to meet each other. At the high school level, we have a once a month class that is required, and Sometimes I pick topics for it. We call it seminar. Sometimes the students ask if they can run it. Every kid has a senior project topic, and so sometimes that's what they're presenting on. And that also is a way that kids have made really good friends that way. Kids have decided to visit each other. And so those are the kind of formal opportunities. We also have a once a month parent meeting where our parents of our K through 8 have made connections with each other, and then they facilitate stuff offline. Um, and the other really neat thing about it, I think, and it's not to say, I went to a regular school with all of my peers, and we don't have that. But one of the things that we do have that I think is also really valuable is the relationships that kids develop with their parents and their grandparents, and bringing in members of their community. And um, I have a couple kids who are their main teachers, their grandparent, and it's really this amazing. The grandparents are just grateful to get to know their grandkids in that way. Often, one of them is like a retired professor, like, so they're very quality teachers, but they have time and a real passion towards educating this child. And so that's another, just a strength of it that happens as a result. The other thing I would say is that instead of kids being tired and coming home from school and parents being like, "What did you do today?" They're like, there's the parents are involved. And so there's, discussions about the learning, and the things that the kids are passionate about are brought into the learning. And so it just creates a different family dynamic. And it's not, not every family has the resources or the time to be able to provide that for their child. But for a lot of families, they value it, and they find it's okay, right? And that it's okay to take time from other things that maybe they were doing in order to facilitate this for their kid. And they bring in other family members to help at times.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, there was one subject that my grandpa my grandpa was very good at. So I went every week. I would go to his house and he would help me with homework. And we both cherished those moments because he helped me with homework and he enjoyed being there with him, and he feels that he's contributing. So, and so definitely in your case, I guess you see it more often because of the circumstances of the kids being with family, which is amazing. Another thing that you said that I found it funny with all of my kids, whenever I ask them, so how was school? Each and one of them, good, fun. Like, no, it was fun. That's it. That's the. Can you tell more? No, yeah, it was just,
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
tired.
yeah, like so. But so I'm wondering, here in your case, obviously the families that sign up their kids to this type of school, they have high interest in making sure that it's going to be successful because they choose a different path than the usual for whatever the reason is. So I'm wondering, what is your relationship, the teachers with the parents? Do you have a constant, like maybe a weekly? Tell us how that relationship with the parents and tell them how things going. And
Yeah, and so we
yeah.
meet with our K through 8, we meet a minimum of once a month, but when we're not with a live meeting, and that's with the family. So that's with the parent and the kid. And then the 9th through 12th, we meet a minimum of twice a month. And when we don't have the live meetings, though, we can communicate through email and other forms of communication. So different families have different needs, but I often think of myself, I've done a lot of teacher coaching in my career, and that I'm in some ways coaching these parents as teachers. And so looking at I review as a teacher, and our teachers review the work, we see what's there, and then we identify places that the parents could use support, or maybe there's areas where we're like, oh, you can leverage this to really get this kid excited about reading. I noticed just a real passion here about signing up for this science class in the future. So we're using our kind of experienced educator viewpoint to coach and guide the families. If they have specific questions, for sure, we often start there. And it's really amazing. And we loop with our students as teachers. So, as long as there is a good relationship, you could go K through 12 with a family. And so you really get to know them and know them well. And and be able to offer your best advice as a teacher. But I think they grow to trust our educators as well, and so they ask when they're struggling. They ask questions if they and kids change over time, right? So what maybe worked really well, up to fourth grade, all of a sudden isn't working as well anymore. Or the same thing with high school. Our high school classes are much more independent, and there's an ability to be on them without as much help from the parents, and that's a transition. It's an important that level of independence is an important transition, but the parents still meet with us, or still we're working together. It's a partnership with the family and the teacher and the student, and so we're constantly morphing and changing that. And the parents know what the kids are studying, and have, as also in within the curriculum, a lot of the time we will have things that say, have a discussion about this with your family, or things to actually bring in discussion, family members. Maybe it's something about go out in your community and find a organization that has to do with what you were just studying, and see how you can be of help, and then report back. And so we're trying to weave that in as much as we can, but it's definitely a partnership between the family and the teacher and the student. And even as young as kindergarten, we want them to have a voice, the student to have a voice as well. Although obviously the parents are playing a really important role at that point. By the time they're seniors, it's really neat because they're very independent learners, and they've learned a lot of that kind of self-management that, a lot of kids don't learn until college. I worked in a regular K or brick and mortar classroom for a number of years, and there's somebody there telling them all the time what to do, even in progressive schools. But this format asks kids, what are you interested in, and when do you want to learn it, and do you want to do one class at a time, or do you want to do math 3 days a week? And they get to have a lot of say over how they learn and what works best for them. And so even when they struggle with it a little bit, which they will, it's worthwhile. But I tell them all the time, I'm like, you're not going to have to figure this out in college, because you are figuring this out right now. And they're like, yeah, I am, aren't I? So, um,
So if you had to describe what is the main, maybe 1 point, maybe 3 to 5 points, whatever, differences between between the normal school, which you are very aware of, you are product of this system,
yeah.
you taught there too, right? So you know it from both sides, and obviously you're now very familiar with your school. What would you say are the main differences, benefit also in a
I know as a classroom teacher, when you get one-on-one time with the kid, it's great, right? Because kids have really personal individual needs. And as the class gets bigger and bigger, you're kind of morphing those, you're juggling your priorities. And so one of the just really great things is that we offer individualized education, and we're really looking at what does this kid need, and what are this kid's strengths, and what are their challenges, what are their goals. And so we start with a learning styles profile. That's like part of admissions right away. And so that's a basis for our conversation. So that is what comes to mind right away. Relationships are really, I think that's really special. It's really special to meet your kid, to know them, to see their work over time. And then so relationships between the teacher and the kid, but then also with the parents and the family. And, I know as a classroom teacher, we would have parent nights and try to bring parents in, but there was such a disconnect between, even the most, earnest parents who really wanted to be a part of it, who would volunteer in the classroom, whatever. There's still a disconnect where this is a model where, families are an integral part of the child's education. And so that, I just really value that. Let me think, there's any others. The other thing I think that just comes to mind, and I had a family just talk about how this is, that the kids' interests aren't outside interests. They're they're valued, they're part of it. And so, a kid who's really into music, it's not like they have to finish all their school and then do music. We can bring music into, they could do some of their history about music. Maybe some of their English is reading about, people that they're really inspired by. So we have that flexibility to, the passions aren't extra. They're hey, yeah, that's your entry point to be really excited about, the science of music. It's just an example. This is where my brain goes, so we just have the ability to take, like, this is what really turns you on. And let's learn about all these other things that our culture says are important, but you can still love that, and you don't have to put that aside and have that be the extra or later, or that you get home and you're so tired that you don't have time to do it. think those are the ones that come to mind right away.
I can see the benefit right away, and it makes the experience of learning much more. I don't want to say fun. I mean, it's fun, but not in the sense of, I mean, at the end of the day, we want them to learn and grow, but in a way that motivates them to do so, because they have the luxury to work one on one with their teacher and choose exactly how they, how they want to take it. Which is, I wish they could do it in every school, right? So let me ask you. I would think that if there is a child that is struggling, your school like is struggling, let's say with the studies, then the one-on-one and your service is right there. It's perfect. I can see that. But let me ask you, what do you do on a different scenario when you have this brilliant genius kid and he wants to run faster and he wants to take AP classes and I don't know, and college level classes? What do you do? And like he's like, give me what's next? What's next? What do you do in these cases?
So I think actually both of those ends have similar needs in that they really need to be met where they're at and brought to the next level, right? And so if you're struggling, that's the same thing. But if you are accelerated in a regular classroom, a lot of the time it's not moving fast enough for you, or you learn it very quickly, but yet you have to slow down to the pace of other students. And learning that those social dynamics are really valuable, but it's also neat. So we have, there's a lot of online programs that we bring in. We allow dual credit. There's AP classes, AP prep classes, and AP classes offered through a lot of online things. And so students can do that, and then we review them with them and then we bring them in as part of our curriculum. Our high school curriculum in itself is fairly rigorous with a lot of room for flexibility. And we always, we call them deep dives. We call it off-roading. If there's some passion that kids are really into, then we help the parents to find whether if they're experts. Certainly, we're not experts in everything, but we help them find the experts in their communities. And with the online world, so the AI world, right? You have access to so many experts. Like I just sent a mom a woman who's teaching Spanish from Colombia, and the conversation told me that she lives in Pennsylvania, right? And so they're going to maybe start online classes just once a week, where the student actually gets to speak to a native Spanish speaker. There's just room for that. Most colleges offer, or many colleges in the U.S. offer dual enrollment opportunities for those kids who are ready and want to go that direction. And so and you can work through our curriculum at whatever pace you want. We have the kind of a standard for high school, a standard 4-year. They're the same or similar graduation requirements as the state of California, but you know, you can do more, and some of our kids do. And we operate on a 12-month schedule, and so we value and encourage them to take summer breaks or to take breaks that work with their families. But if there's something they're really into, maybe they're doing some kind of internship over the summer and they're getting credit for it. And, or maybe just over the summer, they're just studying science because that's their thing. And so there's room for that within the curriculum as well. Pretty much our answer, it has to have a reason, and then it's yes, right? Like, so if it's something like, hey, I want to put this off because I'm so into learning this, it's like, all right, yeah, let's figure out how to make that work for you. And it's really nice as a teacher and the director of education, I get the final say on a lot of things, but to be in an environment where we're really trying to support that kid going and running with the material that they really want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Well, I wish every kid in America could benefit from that. And that led me exactly to our next topic, which AI. So we all know AI changes every day our life in every aspect possible. Specifically, in your case, it could be AI as part of the learning tools. It could be AI as part of building different, hopefully better curriculum, right? And it could be maybe AI helping you, the teachers, and the school operation in running. So I wonder, do you already see the impact at your school? Or is there anything that you do now? Is there anything that you are thinking of the future to use it?
We are just beginning in our AI journey, but one of our last faculty meetings was about AI. Our founder, who is now retired, has just done a deep dive into AI and how we'll interface with it. We, uh, we had a kind of an initial discussion and people brought in the tools that they knew. And then we assigned our teachers to go get some professional development on our own that we're funding on AI and bring it back to us. And so we want it to be a tool, and not something to be afraid of. We are excited about that idea. When I think about what I hope the AI hopefully allows things to be so personalized, right? And I think about like a math curriculum where, kids will get parts of it really quickly and parts of it take them longer. And AI, I would imagine that things are being developed where you can just tune right into what the kids' needs are, and to be able to offer curriculum on that level. So I think that that will be a lovely outcome. I do not know the specifics of where that lives yet or how that will happen. I think, the one of the fears, and I talk about other teacher friends with AI is around the world of writing and kids not doing their own writing, and that you can't always tell. And I have teacher friends who are so frustrated grading papers because they don't feel like their kids are writing in it, any of them. And I think, for us, that goes back to we're not always emphasizing the product. We really emphasize the process and the messiness of it, and it's okay if it's not perfect. And really having part of our whole thing is to have kids self-reflect on like what do they want to learn and what's valuable. And so it's because it's more than just handing something in. I hope that we're creating their own kind of metacognition around how they want to use AI in the future and where it's good to cut corners, maybe, I don't know, the college application, you wrote the essay and you want to make sure it's totally grammatically correct. And then maybe that's a okay place to cut corners. But maybe if you put all the content in there, it's going to miss that kind of soul that's really you. So just helping them work their way. I've some of my seminar topics I bring to my high school students have to do with AI, and they feel very confident about it and not as afraid as most adults that I talk to. They see it as a tool. I've actually been just so impressed with their ability to be like, well, it'll substitute in some ways, but not in others. They all said they'd be greatly offended if a teacher wrote an evaluation for them through AI, which I thought was really interesting, right? Like, they were like, no, that would be horrible. And so then they could self-reflect on, well, their own work, should be self-written as well. Yeah, those are the things that come off the top of my head. It's going to transform education, but I think there's just so much potential and possibility, and teachers never have enough time, and anything that can help kind of differentiate in that way so that the teachers can do the real connecting, the real inspiring, the kind of stuff that's more than just this is what the right answer is, but hey, this is how you can connect this. And I think that could be a helper. It could be the teacher helper.
I think you hit the nail on the head in what you just said. AI is, when I give speech in various occasions, I always use the analogy to when our ancestor received fire or discover fire, right? You can take fire to be a helpful tool, right? You
Yeah.
can use it for good things, but you can use it for bad things. And I think the same thing is with AI. I mean, there's a lot of similarity if you think about it this way. It's a super powerful technology, and yes, you can make use of it in both ways. And I think I like a lot what you said. If you find a way to help the teacher spend more this one-on-one time with the students, right? And that you look, you can't ignore it. It's everywhere. So you can't just say, no, I don't want it. But if you use it in such a way that, allow the teacher to spend time more, because let's say it can help you grade the exam faster and now. So I think you said it very, very nicely. And that's where we can see a lot of benefit. The other thing that I think you mentioned, which I know from other discussion with my guests in this show, and I hear it again and again. Yes, these days, we're still on? Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. It was frozen for a moment. So
Yeah,
these
it's okay.
days,
I can still hear you.
yeah.
So
All right. I wasn't sure. Okay. So, kids, if they use it, by the way, we all bring a little bit more lazy. We all use it, in a way. One of my guests, who is a professor at the university, told me that they trained a model to evaluate their students' exams, which he was amazed with the result. He said it actually evaluated better than I do, but now he has more time to work on better curriculum, improve the labs and all that. So, but the kids, and here's the problem that I think in your school can help a lot, if they make a use of that in such a way that they don't really learn and they can't represent what they deliver. Because anyone can go ChatGPT and write me, it takes, but then, and okay, they submit their homework, you grade it, great. But if they don't learn at the end of the day, right, and at the end of the year, they will find themselves struggling in the future when they come to real life. And then what a role as a teacher, I think, as an educator would be, all right, I trust you that you did the research. That's fine if you use AI to help you, but now let's talk one-on-one, or let's verbally, no help from anything, and let's see that you actually understand what you wrote, right, and you can protect, right, defend your work. And I think this is super important because if we don't do that, we're hurting them. They don't realize that. They think I found a way to work out the system. But then when real life hits and they don't really know what they're supposed to know, that's a problem. And I think in your school, you have all the means and the resources to help with that. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the really cool things about writing a paper, perhaps, is that you integrate the knowledge in a different way than if you were to just read it and answer some questions. And so then to be able to talk about what you know, or maybe you are also doing an art project associated with it, or you're bringing it into your community, and so it's absolutely, and also to get away from this kind of model of I'm trying to turn in papers so that I can get an A, so that I can get into college or and that it's really about, well, what did you learn about this? And what's your next question as a result of studying
Right.
this and valuing that as much as the quality of the paper that's written, I think inspires students to do that part. Like you rewarding what you value, and so you're really valuing, like, let's talk about this, and what I saw this point in your paper, and tell me, let's talk about that a little bit. I'm really interested by that, or and if they know that they're going to be that I care enough as an educator, or their parent to ask them about it, then they're more invested in actually learning it. And I think that's one of the kind of pieces of it. And we're not in a system where it's like, okay, check off, you got to hand in this many papers, they're all checked off, you're done. It's more like, hey, what do you want to learn about, and how are you learning this? And it's all about taking information in, you do something with it. So whether you write a paper or you create a presentation, or and then it's your interpretation back out. That's just kind of education and just a quick thing. And so you could use AI for that, but it's really unsatisfying, right, when you do that, unless you need to hand it in for something. And so that, I think, is a different feeling. And
Exactly.
sometimes it's a great tool in that case. Yeah.
And that circle back exactly to what you said a few minutes ago about this example that you gave. If a student is like music a lot, right? And then their history work is, history of some part of music or how it developed. So now it's not they don't want to cheat. They really want to do their work and submit it because they are motivated to learn, and they don't need to, they can use AI, but they really want to know what the results are. So that's beautiful, and that's amazing way to, use this technology and in general to educate. Camila, this was a joy. This was very educative. I learned a lot. It was my pleasure. And I really want to thank you for joining this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It was very, very fun to talk to you. And I love talking about Global Village Schools.
If AI feels overwhelming, you're not behind. You're just busy running a business. New tools pop up every week, and no one has time to figure out what actually works. At Lion Edge AI, we take AI off your plate so you can focus on running your business. We review your setup, choose the right tools, and run AI systems across sales, customer support, and operations. No noise, no learning curve. Lion Edge AI, your unfair advantage in the AI era.